everyone, and welcome to Cricut Time. Subscribe to see new videos each week with project ideas and tutorials on all things Cricut. For today's tutorial, I will show you how to make a super easy Mother's Day card using your Cricut or Silhouette. I'll also show you an easy trick you can do so you can have writing on both the front and the inside of the card. For this project, I will be using some 65-pound cardstock in white and a few pens from Cricut's 0.4mm fine point pen set. You don't have to use the fine point pen set. The markers will work just as well for this too. Let's get started in Design Space. I'll need a few shapes, so I'll bring in a square and a line. I'll change the color of the square to white so it's easier to see. Now I can turn these into a card. When you bring in a line, the program automatically sets it to score, which is great because that's exactly what we want. The square is set to cut, which is also what we want, so we don't need to change those. The first thing I need to do for this card is make it the right size. This will be a smaller card, so I will make it 7 inches wide by 4 inches tall. I'll bring over the score line to around the middle. Then I'll zoom in a bit and click on the rectangle. This little cross shows me where the true middle of the rectangle is, so I just have to line up the score line to the right spot. I'll highlight both of these layers and attach them. And now my machine will be able to score my card right in the middle for a perfect fold line. Next, let's bring in the design for the front of the card. I'll click on Images and type in Mother's Day. You just have to scroll down and find one you like. I found one the other day that I wanted to use, and I bookmarked it. So I'll click on Bookmark, and here it is. If you want to find this design, you can check out Wispy Willow's design page in the Images section. Now I'll just resize it. That looks good. I want my machine to draw this design on my card, so I'll change the operation to pen. If you click on this little color box, you can choose the thickness of your pen or marker and which color you are planning on using. That looks good for the front, but I also want to add in some writing for the inside of the card. I'll bring in a text box and put in my writing. Let's change the font. The font I'll use today is BFC Autumn Harvest. I want the last word to be a bit bigger, so I'll just copy and paste this text box and add in the word awesome. I'll select both of these layers and change their operation type to pen. And I'll go with magenta for the inside of the card. I want this writing to stay together, so I'll select both of these layers and press attach. There, now I can resize it a little bit. This writing will go on the inside, so I'll move it out of the way for now. Now I can select the top layers and attach these together. These will get cut out, then the inside writing will go on second. Now this is ready to press Make It. I will be cutting this out on a mat. And now here is where the trick is to getting your writing inside the card to work out. Here it is all by itself, but it would be hard for me to figure out exactly where to put this writing so it ends up in the right spot. What you can do instead is click on the writing, click on these 3 little dots, and move it to the other mat that has the card on it. We don't actually want this writing to go on the front of the card where the flower design is, but we can use it as a guide to figure out where the writing should be. Line it up as though the flowers weren't there. Then when it's in a good spot, click on the 3 dots again and move it back to the first mat. The position it was in on the second mat will stay exactly the same when it comes back to the first mat. We do need to cut out the card first, so instead of cutting out the mats in the order Design Space is recommending, I'll click on mat 2 and start here instead. I'm using light cardstock today, and the first tools I need to use are my pen and my scoring wheel. Now to get the materials ready. I have my cardstock here, and I'll cut it down to size. I'll stick the cardstock down on a green mat and use a brayer to stick it down smoothly. Now I'll get my machine ready for the cut. I'll be taking out my fine point blade and pop in my scoring wheel. If you don't have a scoring wheel, you can also use a scoring stylus or a debosser for this step. Next, I'll put in my pen. If you haven't used pens and markers with your machine yet, they are super easy to use. Just open up clamp A and push it down until you hear the click. Then close the clamp. Now I can load in my mat, and my Maker 3 will do these steps. The first steps are done, and Design Space has prompted me that it's time to switch out my blade and put the fine point blade back in. This is cut out, and now my machine is ready to draw on the other side. Here is the trick to lining up the writing properly on the second side. Carefully take the card off the mat, but leave the outline on the mat. Now I'll just flip the card over and stick it back in its spot. Now I can switch out my pen and send this through again. This is done. Now I can take everything off the mat. The last thing I need to do is fold this in half on the line and use my scraper to give it a nice crisp fold. Well, there you go. This card is done and ready for Mother's Day. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more project ideas and tutorials on all things Cricut.